Hello there, and welcome to a film a day with me, Jordan Woodley. Now, this isn't the first time that I've covered a film where the analysis and deconstruction of the film form almost feels trivial and superficial because of the importance of the message. And I think this is a almost definitive example where this is the case. The Hate You Give is an unfortunately prophetic, important, and powerful document in regards to filmmaking. Having been released in 2018, it is an unfortunate case of art imitating life, or life imitating art, where the themes and ideas in this film were unfortunately have reflected major events that have happened in the relationship between the black community and the police in the United States over the last 3-4 years following the film, but of course is part of a greater tapestry of tension and inherent racism that exists within the United States police. And it's very difficult because there was no way at the time of the film's production that it could possibly have foreseen exactly how important it would be, how relevant it would be in respect of Black Lives Matter, in respect of the representation of the murder of black men and women by police officers due to either miscommunication or, frankly, just brutality. And so consequently, talking about the film, analysing it, feels churlish. It feels, unnecessary because the importance of the message is so relevant. But there are things that should be admired about it. So directed by George Tillman Jr., the film follows Star, played by Amanda Stenberg, who is a young girl, 16, who, though living sort of in the heart of a black community, because of circumstances around her past, her parents decide to send her to a white school. And that creates a real division within her as a person between how she feels when she's amongst amongst the black community, and then how she feels amongst her school peers. And it sort of creates this dual identity aspect. But when a childhood friend is killed by a police officer, that obviously shatters her world, having witnessed the senseless murder of her friend for something as simple as reaching into his car, whilst having been stopped with no reason by a police officer. And from that point on, the film is obviously a representation of the division between, I suppose, the idea that it's about someone like Star who wants to achieve more and wants to, escape the senselessness and the poverty that is so close to her, and yet at the same time feels like an outsider amongst the people that she believes or believed to be her friends. And it's sort of emblematic of a greater division. The idea of the generational divides, and the change in attitude and the way that people, particularly African American people, have to have to almost shift and alter themselves to try to become more appealing within what is supposed to be a diverse community of the United States, and yet more often than not, it's them having to change themselves to be seen as more appropriate or fit in a way that doesn't draw attention to themselves. And of course, this incident triggers this greater resonance for people, the characters around Star, particularly her father, her mother and her father, her brothers, the people who knew her, both, people who were innocent, family or friends or people from her community, but also the criminal element also are being affected by this. And you see that sense of struggle, I suppose, where someone is having all of these issues all happening at once. And yet she is only sort of 16 years old, and yet is having to process these complex, difficult problems, and it opens up wounds and trauma that already existed from her history, and yet now another trauma and horror further impacts her, and just isolates her, and creates that sense of that decompartmentalization that she'd created for herself just collapses in on itself, and so she feels this sense of isolation, of being attacked both from the police community, who are obviously trying to close ranks in defense of the perpetrator of the murder, but then also, like I say, the gang criminal element that exists in the community that she lives are also hostile because of the links that Khalil, the boy who's murdered, has to them, and obviously the spotlight that might be brought upon their activities. And so, we have both the law and and crime, both on both sides, attacking this family and this girl, who just simply wants to see justice done. And it sort of represents that shift in ideas and dynamics. The idea that, generationally speaking, that there was this idea that you get that sense of, oh, we don't see colour. That's even being said by white characters within the film. And the idea of black people, especially younger ones, trying to feel that sense of, oh, we are better than what came before, and yet as soon as a major event like this happens, it demonstrates how people fall back into their usual habits, their usual cycles. People she thought were her friends reveal more racist attitudes that they have. And and like I said, like her boyfriend, who shows his naivety, his goodwill, but his naivety. And then, you have that sense of, place, and whether, a girl like this should stand and draw attention to herself, even though it will only bring problems for her and, for her family, or whether she should continue to try and work in the shadow, to try and highlight the horror of this crime, yet still somehow keep a sense of anonymity. And it's a very complex and rich film. As I say, it's important. It's a demonstration of changing attitudes and the ways that these ideas still need to be addressed. I mean, when we look at two distant strangers, I said very similar things about how, generations might have ideas of trying to enhance, get above these racist institutions and somehow try to lift ideologies with them, and yet at the same time, these unfortunate events highlight how these sort of the way that certain institutions work are still entrenched with a sense of racism a sense of otherness. And so, of course, it's got all these complex ideologies, and it talks about, other aspects of interracial relationships and black community ideas, and, the struggle of the black community, trying, how the drug trade works and how it impacts the black community, how, people who try to get away from crime are still drawn in, or still, it still touches their lives. And how you have other characters who just simply want to try and help, like Star's mother, who just simply is trying to do whatever it takes to protect her family, and yet, unfortunately, is in spite of the justice that's not taking, the injustice that's taking place. And I do think this is a really rich and complex film that really wants to look at and address issues. If there's any criticism I do have, and as I said, trying to look at it in terms of just as a film is not something I'm really feeling in the mood for, but I still have to do that to some degree, and there is still that sense of, unfortunately, there is a, it's dealing with quite complex ideas, yet at the same time, because it is still a narrative and still needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, and certain plot beats, and a way to be able to wrap the story up, even though the ideas still need to be, open-ended. It does fall into melodrama, and it does fall into these more like soap operatic plot beats and character beats that unfortunately do hanker it a little bit. But as I say, the ideas are so much greater than the story that we're being told. And as I say, Amanda Steinberg, her performance is so strong, and the way that she delivers it and the way that she walks us through it, there's almost something novel about it, as in novelistic about it. You get that sense that you could see this in text. You can see how each section could be like a chapter to the chapter to the chapter, and I think she really carries that, but also allows it to feel cinematic and relatable. But I think this is a very powerful film and an important one. There's not a great deal more to say other than it absolutely should be seen, and I wish it had greater light on it, because looking back, I think people will bring this up as a cinematic representation of the sort of black history in this time period. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment below, and share the video, because those all help me in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell to get notifications of when new videos are uploaded. Check out my back catalogue of almost 200 videos, and follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm always tweeting about films and TV shows, and I share these videos once they're uploaded to YouTube, either the day of or the day after. Thank you for joining me. Take care.